But I call the member for New England.
Thank you very much. This is my first grievance debate, and when I heard about a grievance debate, I thought I don't need 10 minutes, I probably need half a day. But anyway, let's give it a run in the park. Look, Mr Deputy Speaker, I'd like to bring to your attention some of the things that we're doing in the New England. And the grievance, of course, is how little happened before the coalition government was in. When I first arrived, Mr Deputy Speaker, there was a thing called the Legume Woodinbong Road. It's a road that goes from basically my electorate to your electorate, and it's vitally important that we keep that road safe in that Legume to Woodinbong Road. And I had a meeting at Woodinbong the other day, which is in your electorate, and I didn't tell you because I didn't think I had to, and I really enjoyed it. And they were really, really friendly to me, really friendly, said it was great to see me, but I put an apology for you. But it's so important that we get that Legume Woodinbong Road up and running. It's safe for the kids. It moves about 430,000 head of stock along it. It's great for the economy of Casino. It's great for the economy of the Tablelands. And to go there with people such as Peter Petty, he's such a good fella, Mayor Peter Petty from Tenterfield, and just to listen to him, you can put him in the car and listen to him, and it's an absolute joy. He's the only person I know when you talk to him, he gives you full name. So he says, "I'll tell you, young Kevin Hogan, I'll tell you what," and it's an absolute joy. But Mount Lindsay Highway was Mount Lindsay Highway, but the Legume Woodinbong Road, we're spending well in excess of $10 million, about $11.8 million on getting that up and running. And I'd like to also commend Thomas George, the member for Lismore, who's done so much in that space to work with us. Tenterfield bypass, another big issue. We've got money on the table for the Tenterfield bypass, and we're getting that done, making sure the New England Highway is a corridor of commerce. And just below the Tenterfield bypass, we've got the Bolivia Hill realignment. Now, the Bolivia Hill realignment, the floor of that bridge is going to be only slightly lower than the Sydney Harbour Bridge, and this is great. You know, they've got a work camp out on Pye Road, and we've completely booked out the town of Tenterfield. We've got people in there. This is important during the drought, that we can get these infrastructure projects happening and get the town moving, because there's not much money coming in from the cockies, because things are a bit tough, but by gosh, we've got some money coming in from some of the work we're doing on infrastructure. Guyra, I'd like to also note Michael Hartman, who was a good fella and a good mate, and unfortunately Michael Hartman died of a brain cancer, brain tumour. But one of the things Michael Hartman said to me when I used to drive around with him, I said, "What can we do for Guyra?" And he brought one thing to my attention, that was the Calora aged care facility used for dementia. And he said, if you've got a little bit of money in the whippy tin, you should try and help them out. And we did that. And it was great the other day to get that open. It was really, really important. All around the area, around the electorate, Mr Deputy Speaker, we've upgraded 24 bridges, 24. And this has been part and parcel of making sure we can get those B-doubles, those trucks, all that transport to markets, and also create greater safety. Really important. For so long, these bridges just stayed in the sort of a twilight zone, and to get in there and to actually see new concrete bridges in that can take a B-double, it means so much to the local people in the local area, and obviously it means a fair bit to me. Armidale, well, who can forget APVMA? By gosh, didn't we have a fight for that? So many people arguing against us about the movement of APVMA, real decentralisation, and now the people of the city of Armidale say there's a real buzz in the town. It's actually happening. They're seeing people move in. We're getting new scientists moving in. Of course, as the regulator moves into town, well, so will the other chemical companies want to be there as well, because they want to be near the regulator. So basically there's a sort of a centre of excellence there. And that is, I think, could be a template to decentralisation in so many areas, and it's something we've got to do. It's no good that Sydney goes out and complains about the housing prices and Melbourne complains about the housing prices if they don't want to participate in a program of decentralisation, because people are not going to leave Sydney unless you give them a reason to. And we, in the regional areas, will give people a reason to do that. It's part and parcel of especially what the National Party, I imagine the Liberal Party, stands for, and the Labor Party, we'll hear from them in a little while. Upgrade the Armidale Airport, very important. Upgrade. No, I'm not. You just replied to me, so I can't be. You just heard me. So upgrade of the Armidale Airport, very important. Also to get access to a new industrial area we're building there. Tamworth, when we first arrived, we expanded Chaffey Dam. We took it from 60,000 megs to around about 103,000 megs. If we hadn't done that, Mr Deputy Speaker, Tamworth would have run out of water during the drought. And we had to fight the Green movement all the way. They were worried about the Burralong frog. I thought a dam with more water would be absolutely great for more frogs, but we had to fight that. We got it through, and that's why the City of Tamworth now has water. We've also gone through, we upgraded the instrument landing system at Tamworth Airport. And so what's important of that? Because we're fighting as hard as we can to get the new training school for Qantas into Tamworth. That's 300 jobs if we get that in there. We're working very closely with the council, and I want to commend Cole Murray and also the local state member, Kevin Anderson, in trying to make sure that we get those jobs into Tamworth, working all the time about that. We're building the ring road around Tamworth, and the upgrade of Appleby Lane was vitally important for that. And also one of the busiest bridge in northern New South Wales is Jury Street Bridge, and we're upgrading that as well. It's very important. We're still trying to get the upgrade of Dungowan Dam. This will further basically plumb up Tamworth for further growth into the future, and of Northern Inland Centre of Sporting Excellence, vitally important. As you go into Tamworth, we'll have a multi-million-dollar sport facility that sits right beside ALEC, which is the big horse facility, so good for cutting horses, rodeos. Rodeos are big in our area, we love our rodeos. And this sporting facility means the kids will be there, the netballs will be there, the athletics tracks there, the equestrian areas there, all working and showing people that Tamworth is a great city to live in. In Corindai, once more, I love water infrastructure. We upgraded the connection between Kapolly Dam and Werris Creek. Not much happened in Werris Creek for a long, long while. It's strange that, because the previous local member came from Werris Creek, but it was kind of I used to live in Werris Creek. I bought a house for $73,000 and rode that bull market in real estate till I sold it years later for $69,000. And I was always very aware of how far that town had been left behind. And so to upgrade that water supply into Werris Creek gives it the potential for commercial growth. In Scone Bypass, over $130 million we're spending there to make sure that when you're driving from Brisbane down to Sydney along that New England highway, that you do it in a quicker form. And that's a vitally important piece of infrastructure that's happening right now at Scone. Also, we're upgrading the Scone sale yards. Just as we're upgrading the Inverell sale yards, we put money on the table for Middlebrook Bridge. And we also have put the planning in place for the upgrade of the airport, and there's also the equine centre there. All these are part and parcel of what you do, because your primary responsibility here always is to look after your local seat and to try and be a champion of your local seat. And I say this because sometimes, you have to remind people that you're hard at work for them. In the background, we are fighting now to make sure we get cheaper power prices. For the pensioners, for people doing it tough, they want cheaper power prices. And on a more sombre note, to hear from the Salvation Army that people in my electorate are going to bed at 5:30 in the evenings when it's cold because they can't afford their power bills is a total and utter disgrace, and I will be making sure that I do whatever I have to make sure we get them cheaper power bill, because otherwise we are not doing our jobs as local members. You've got to look after the most vulnerable, and by gosh, they are the most vulnerable, and it was great to have discussions with the Prime Minister today about precisely how we do this, and to work with our colleagues to make sure that we do this. We are fighting for lower power prices, and we've got to actually secure lower power prices if we take the dignity of people, and especially those doing it tough, seriously. Stock sales, over in the member, what's your seat? Swan. The member for Swan, not in his seat, but over in the west, we've got to keep that live sheep trade going. You've got to keep it going. We're actually making a buck for these people, and especially the people out in the remote towns of Western Australia. And we've got to keep that live sheep trade going, because if we don't, you're going to be taking money out of the towns. It's so important to underpin that. And the final issue before I conclude, drought. Drought is an issue that is so iconic. It's not just iconic for people who are suffering drought, but it shows whether this parliament cares for those who are doing it tough. And the more we can do for drought, and I also commend that the Labor Party is also walking up to the mark on this, and I heard the the Leader of the Opposition's speech in the chamber the other day, and I commend him for that. I don't want this to be a partisan fight on drought. I want it to be a bipartisan approach.
I thank the member for New England and very happy that you enjoyed your visit to the wonderful community of Wollongong.